Macmillan Audio presents The Lost Girls by Allison Brennan. Read for you by Anne-Marie Lee. Prologue. Father Sebastian Peña sat up in bed early that morning, mindful of every ache in his arthritis-ridden joints. Disease didn't care if you were a saint or a sinner or, like most of God's creatures, somewhere in between. Sebastian had always been an early riser. The sunrise was his favorite hour, peaceful, unlike any other moment of the day. But it wasn't quite 5, early even for him. A rustling outside had him thinking a wind was picking up, but then he heard nothing. No wind, no cars. What had he heard in that dream state before waking? What had him rising before the sun? As soon as his feet touched the cold floor, he sought his slippers. He turned on the dim light, then wrapped a thin robe around his broad but frail shoulders. Sebastian had once been a large man. He'd played football in college before he received his calling. He had been a wild young man, but like St. Augustine, once he was called, he kept his vows. Still, he wondered at times, as inappropriate as it was, if God had afflicted his joints because of the prideful athlete he'd once been. That sound again, faint but distinct, came from outside. He parted the blinds and peered out the window into the darkness. A small house behind Our Lady of Sorrows served as the parish rectory, which he shared with Father Peter Mannion. Father Peter was a young priest who had taken over the parish when Sebastian retired last year. Sebastian had both longed for and dreaded retirement. He was tired, very tired, but he loved his church. The families he'd seen week after week, from baptisms to weddings to funerals. The joys and the deep, deep sadness. Our Lady resided in a poor rural community halfway between San Antonio and Laredo. Sebastian had been in the Laredo diocese for years, but the last 30 he'd spent here in this small parish in this impoverished town. He was here only for a few more months to help with the transition. By January, he'd be settled into a retirement home in Tucson, Arizona, a great relief from the Texas humidity, which worsened his arthritis. But he didn't want to leave. A clang of metal on metal made him pause. A chest-high wrought iron gate circled the property, easy enough to climb over if someone felt compelled to vandalize or rob the church. Perhaps it was the garbage cans, a cat or a possum in the trash again. Father Peter was far too forgetful. How many times had Sebastian told him to secure the lids? Sebastian walked through the house. The living room and dining areas had been converted to the parish secretary's office and his private office. No, not his anymore, Father Peter's. "Forgive me, Lord," he muttered as he turned on the entry light. Yes, his pride and jealousy were coming through. He had thought he'd conquered those vices decades ago, but turning over his parish to another, younger priest had brought back emotions he thought he'd never feel again, along with the sick sensation that his life was over.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?